Well, hi, welcome back to A Bridge Between. I know it's been a 2-year hiatus, but I'm changing everything up this year. And one of the things I kind of wanted to do is the last video I did was an interview with a music teacher. And I loved doing that video. I loved getting just to talk with someone. And so I wanted to get back to doing that. And so with me is Tyler Eberlee.
Hi.
He's a youth minister as well, working at
Immaculate Heart of Mary, doing adult faith formation there now.
Very different. I'm doing youth ministry here at Immaculate Conception, and today we're going to be cooking.
Yeah, I love cooking.
I love getting to eat. So what are we cooking today?
Well, I figured we'd do something simple, and we can talk about cooking, and we can talk about, at least for me, how it's impacted my own faith and how I've found ways to use it in talking about my faith. And so we just, tacos. Everyone loves tacos. My wife loves tacos. She in fact texted me about 5 minutes ago saying she was tempted to get Chipotle tacos for lunch, but she held off. And I said, that's good, because we'll have tacos for dinner tonight.
Yes.
So we'll do tacos, and yeah.
Awesome. Well, I'm excited, and I think one of the things I kind of want to be able to share with people, like you said, is talking about cooking, talking about faith, kind of how they mix, as well as just, with each person, just how we know each other, how we met. Yeah. And our meeting story is very long ago now.
Yeah.
Was it 14 years?
13?
13.
14.
We're going to go with 13.
Yeah.
He'll say 12, I'll say 14, he makes 13. I met Tyler. The one I really remember is I was just graduating from high school. Doesn't age us at all. And he was leading a camp here at my church. And during that camp, we got to go to adoration, experience working with other people. And Tyler was here during that. And I remember he was in the seminary.
Yeah, I was.
And it was a really powerful kind of retreat for me. It kind of helped me realize what I do want to do with my life. It took me 8 more years to actually do that with my life. But the next time I saw Tyler, I was at his. He had just gotten engaged. We were at his church, and you had just gotten engaged to your wife.
Yeah.
And now you have 2 kids?
2 kids. Been married for, what years? It's 20. So been married for 7 years.
This is on film, so now everyone knows. He remembers how long.
I never remember my age, so.
That's okay. Nobody here wants to remember their age right now. So I think we can get started?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, sweet.
So yeah, like I said, I love to cook. But not just to cook just because I like to eat, which is true, but there's a why behind cooking, and that why is what drives me in many ways. And it drives me in a lot of things. It drives me of my faith in many ways. It drives me in wanting to learn different things. And food specifically, I love the why, the science behind it. Like, sure, I could cook something, but I want to cook it well. I want to know why I'm doing something to make it taste as best as possible. And so the same thing has been with food. And you mentioned, like, I was in seminary for a while. And one of the things we did at the seminary there is every Monday night we'd have an hour of Lectio Divina, where we'd read the next Sunday's readings, and then we'd take some time just reflecting on them and everything. And I remember one Monday night we were in the chapel praying, and the gospel was from Matthew, and it's from the Sermon on the Mount. Jesus like, "You are the salt of the earth." And I remember recently in one of my many food books, not a cookbook, like a food book talking about the science and the why, I was reading on salt, and I was like, I had just like this epiphany, this light bulb moment. I ran out of the chapel, went up to my room, found the book, came back down, and I started reading. And the idea of salt, salt in cooking, you use it to draw out moisture and everything out of something, so that the thing that you put it on, not so that it tastes like salt unless you like overdo it big time, but it tastes more like itself. Mm-hmm. And I realized that with that gospel, you are the salt of the earth. Like, we're called to be the salt. We're called to draw out the moisture, the things that aren't giving the flavor to the world, so that it can be more as it's created to be, as it's more as meant to be. And there was just this amazing opportunity of prayer with food. And so we're actually going to do that here first with this steak. And
we're going to
salt. But before I do that, there's already a bunch of moisture you see on most meats and everything. Mm-hmm. And so you want to get it off, because you want to get when you cook it, you want to get it nice seared, and you're not going to get that if it's wet.
This is good for me because I need to work on my cooking.
Exactly.
I'm a really good crock pot cooker right now.
Which isn't bad. Crock pot,
it's not a bad thing, but I would like to be able to sit here and maybe make my girlfriend some tacos every once in a while.
So and then we're just going to put some salt on it.
He's got that.
And you got to come up.
Salt Bay right there.
Again, there's a reason though for that too. Like you do it, you actually get more even coverage when you're going with the salt.
So it's not just like a thing that he just wanted to kind of go like this.
Exactly.
Get the little.
But like you're trying to get some even coverage.
That looks really good. I hope you guys can see this. The camera's a little.
We're gonna get a little salt on there, but I don't want to just salt it. You know, ideally, if we were salted, I'd let it sit for like another half hour, so I let the moisture come out more and more. But even like this, it's fine. If you really if you were to salt this overnight, you pull the moisture out, and then eventually you would start to actually pull some of that moisture back in. But it's not the water; it's the good juices of the steak, and so it tastes more and more like itself. But other thing, like I don't want just salt. I also want some other seasoning because we're gonna make tacos, so we don't want
we make real seasoned tacos here.
Exactly. So I'll use a little bit of cumin here, and we're just eyeballing it. And again, like it's not just it's the actual seeds, and so I gotta crush it up a bit. More in there.
This isn't like the store bought, Kroger's that's already done for you. We got good stuff here.
Because you know once we crush those seeds, they start to lose their flavor, and so you get the real stuff. You keep that flavor a lot longer. Then this big, just put some of that on there.
I can smell it, and it's just already like I'm like drooling. It's great. It's great.
Just dump that on.
I also feel real because you have that.
Right.
I don't know why, but that just makes me feel
it
more
does.
authentic.
It's nice and hefty, and it makes me feel more real too. I have a little bit of smoked paprika as well, a little smoky flavor.
Anything smoked paprika, I'm usually good with. Okay, not ice cream, but you get the point.
I bet you we could do some good ice cream. Some garlic powder. Smoky ice cream, why not?
Smoked paprika ice cream.
And then
coming to you at Baskin Robbins.
Some chili powder. And
so we're getting like good tacos.
We're getting good tacos.
And then you just do the same
I'll do it on
thing.
the other side as well. I've got this meaty hand. I don't want to contaminate things, so I'm keeping it off to the side a little bit right now.
So that's okay. So that's one of the things I struggle with when I'm cooking is I end up washing my hands about 34 times because I'm like, I need both hands for this.
And I do a lot, but sometimes, a lot of times what I do with meat is I'll actually have gloves on and I'll just pull those gloves off really quick, just because it makes it a little. When I'm cooking for 2 kids and my wife and I just got home from a long commute or something, I don't have time to wash my hands 30 times, so I just throw gloves on. It makes it a lot faster. So now we've got our steak like that. Okay. I got it back here. Oh, it's smoking hot, which is not a bad thing. It's a little maybe too hot, so we'll let that cool off briefly. But you want a hot pan when you're cooking it, because if you that noise when you sizzle, like you put it on the grill or something, that's good because that's searing the steak or the chicken or whatever you're putting on it, and it's doing what's called a Maillard reaction. It's caramelizing some of the things in that and gives you this crust, gives you a little more flavor and texture as well. So here, I'm just gonna let me grab a towel off my shoulder so I don't burn myself because it's pretty hot. Here, we can show it right here in the pan as we put it in.
I love it. That noise.
So we'll get that steak going right now.
We're gonna check that out soon.
And so we'll get that starting to cook, and we'll kind of keep an eye on that while we prep. We got some pepper, onion, and we'll have some lime juice at the end. But I'm gonna wash my hand really quick.
Catholics, we have the meat and the Eucharist and the Rosary, and we like Mary, and we like saints, and we like praying, and we like doing things together in a community that's super cool. Yeah. All right, so what do we got next?
Okay, so steak's on the stove, cast iron, keeps it nice and hot in there. We'll keep checking on that. But, tacos by themselves, the steak and the tortillas, that's great, but we want some veggies in there. We'll saute these up as well after the steak's done. So I got an onion, I got a pepper. We're keeping it simple. We'll get those cut up. But
there's going to be a monumental moment. I'm going to eat tacos with onions. I got to eat it in its authentic way.
You're not an onion fan, huh?
I'm not an onion fan, but I'm going to do it today because I know that's like the way to eat tacos.
I think so. But
maybe I will never have to do just tacos and cilantro.
Yeah, I didn't get us any cilantro.
That's okay. It tastes like soap to me.
You're one of those people.
I am one of those people, and that's not like Pat just hates cilantro.
No, I know it's a legit thing.
Legit people.
I don't get it, but I understand that it's a legit thing.
The more and more I talk to people about tacos, the more people I think who have to deal with that.
So yeah, we're just chopping up this bell pepper a little bit. I don't like green peppers, bell peppers. I don't think they have flavor. They're the exact same thing, except for not ripened all the way.
You could have chopped up a jalapeno and I would have been happy.
I could have done that. I kept it simple.
Simple. But I do love me some spice.
And then we'll just get the onion going.
This is the part I have to watch because I'm really bad at chopping vegetables.
My favorite thing to cut anymore is onions, and part of it is because it's a great way for me to practice my own cutting and chopping techniques, and I just keep trying to get better and better at it. And I know the way you don't cry when you cut onions.
Is it something to do with garlic?
Sharp knife.
Really?
Yeah. So from what I've learned, and it seems to always work when my knives are sharp, is when you get a dull knife or anything, it crushes the cells of the onion instead of just slicing through it, and so it splurts out the mist of juices out there, even if you can't see it, and so that's what ends up causing. So if your knife's sharp, you're typically not going to. Now sometimes onions are just going to be an onion.
They're just going to be an onion. Okay, so we go from the side.
So you just kind of go from the side. Kind of go radial around it. We'll check that in a second, make sure it's not burning on us.
It just smells so good back there.
And then, I was going to do two things here. I'm just going to kind of go here, a nice dice. I actually didn't mean to dice it, and then I started doing it because I like doing it so much. So we'll do it two ways here. We got a dice of onions. It's all pretty uniform. Knocking peppers over.
We're losing peppers.
It's okay.
Peppers are down.
And then, honestly, the way I want to do for these, and honestly, I've learned as well that you actually want to take more of the skin and the first layer off of the onion than you might normally think. And you say, it's a waste, but I don't entirely know why. That part I haven't figured out why exactly.
Oh.
But we'll
part of the kind of the unknown.
Yeah, sure. I'm sure there's a reason. I just haven't figured it out.
Now I smell the onions. Woo. But I'm not crying, so.
You're not crying.
And I'm an emotional person. Very.
But then with these, I figured they're more choppable. We'll throw these with the peppers and cook those.
We're going to actually get to cook these.
Yeah, we're going to cook these up. We're not going to keep them raw. I mean, we could, but
I think that might help me.
Yeah, see, I think it'll probably be better that way for you.
A lot of times I kind of, I've always been kind of a big person on not trying new things, and that's something I've kind of wanted to change, which is going to happen today.
Try new foods. Okay. But yeah, so I mean, at this point, I've got things kind of prepped. We're waiting on that to cook a little more. I won't judge people completely if they want their steak completely well done, but we're not going to cook it well done. Hopefully that's okay by you.
Yeah.
Is that something else you go more well done?
No well done for me.
Okay, good. Yeah, we're gonna keep it nice and medium rare.
Hurts my heart. Medium rare. If it's like a filet mignon, I'd like it rare.
It's not going to kill you. It really won't. There's been this, I feel like there's this tendency thought like, if you have it too rare, you're going to get sick. Especially with steak, that's a lot less likely to happen.
I do. So all my steaks, medium rare. Some of them, if they're like filet mignon, rare. And then I like burgers medium.
Yeah, I think that's right.
And I was actually told with burgers, you're supposed to get them a little more cooked because it's like ground beef.
Well, if you don't know where you're getting, where the ground beef is coming from. Yeah, because then there's a chance. But like sometimes, because I'm crazy, I like to grind my own beef at home and then make the burgers. Then I'm like, we can go medium rare with that.
Yeah, I 100% agree. Well, so we got everything prepped.
Yeah.
So I'm curious, what is your faith journey, your faith story, and then we'll, later on we'll kind of talk about how those two are connected. But what's your faith story?
I as a young baby was baptized, and my Catholic faith has been around my entire life in some way, shape, or form. Maybe not super active, but it's been around there. But it wasn't until I was in high school that I really started considering, maybe this should be more. And part of that was because I had a couple of my close friends who were Protestant who were challenging me, like, why do you Catholics do this? I'm like, I don't know. I just go there on Sundays.
We've all been there.
And so I wanted to learn more. I started serving at Mass at my parish. And that kind of got me interested. I remember one of the first Sundays I served, the vocation director for the diocese came and said, hey, have you ever thought about being a priest? And I said yes. And my thought was, if I become a priest, all my problems and issues would go away. Let me quit. That's not true. They're normal people.
Most priests will tell you.
Yeah, it's not true at all. And so, but I started considering that, maybe God is calling me to do something more. And so, I graduated high school and I was like, I want to give this a shot. So I entered seminary for the Archdiocese of Denver and spent 6.5 years, studying and discerning. And, when I decided to leave, like, it wasn't because I was like, no, I don't want this anymore. Like, I still wanted to be a priest. I still wanted that. And yet God was very like, I have something else in store for you. I'm like, okay. And so I entered into doing youth ministry, and just because I wanted to keep sharing my faith. I experienced that over this kind of long, slow burn of this experience of Christ in my life in different moments, and through relationships with other people. And I was like, I want to share this love that I have received. There's something greater out there than just the everyday humdrum life, and I wanted to share that with people. And so I get into ministry, and now I've been doing youth ministry for 11 years now, and some religious education for younger kids, and now adult faith formation as well. And again, it's a huge, like, God has given me so much of my life, and then there's been hard moments. Absolutely, there's been hard moments, especially in the past few years. There's been some moments where it's really a struggle for me. And yet, despite all that, He's always been faithful. He's always been loving, and always been caring for me. And I have to share that with others. That He's still there. Yeah.
We're gonna check on the meat, and for the viewers, between Tyler and I've actually been around ministry since I graduated high school, minus 3 years that I took off. So we've actually he's been doing youth ministry, and I'm in my 4th year going into my 5th. I've actually been around it, my whole life, but then for 11 years I've got to be a part of youth ministry, especially here in Colorado. Yeah. And it's been really cool. And I think, your story is always really awesome because it showed, like, we can do ministry, we can share these things, and we can kind of begin to, also share things like cooking. Yeah. I think that's the important part. Like, at the end of the day, we're all the same.
Absolutely.
We like to cook. We like to eat delicious food, delicious tacos.
Right, absolutely. Well, and that's what I've also learned. We have different journeys, and actually, just a few days ago, I was with a group of people. We were kind of discussing our faith and discussing our own experience and testimony of sorts. And I had this click again, had to do with food. As my faith journey, unlike some people, these like massive aha moments where God just slaps them in the face and they're like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. Almost kind of like a steak. Like you throw it in that hot pan and it immediately starts searing.
Yeah.
My faith has been a little bit different, and it's been this kind of low, slow simmer throughout many years. And I started to realize, like, oh my gosh, my faith journey is like a stew, a beef stew. I love the idea. I started thinking, like, oh yeah, then, like, this is this moment in my life, and that's when you're doing this with the onions, and I started really thinking about it. So I can't tell you all that journey like it is, but I'm reflecting on, again, my journey in my faith in light of like this stew, and like it's a little different than someone throwing the steak on this hot pan. And so, like, we have these different journeys, and food for me is a way of expressing that. Like, that we, like, again, I said that earlier, like, we are the salt of the earth. We are called to go out there and draw and make people more of what they're created to be. Not let them just be who they are necessarily as the world says it, but like who God created them to be, because we are all created for something greater. And do we recognize that? Do we understand that story of what God has done from the beginning of time? He had us in mind, the beginning of time even, and was calling us. And that's our job. Yep. I mean, actually, that's our job. Really, but like all of us, whether we're in the pews on some Sunday or just a little bit, maybe falling away from our faith, like, if we've experienced God in our lives and experienced the love He has for us, we're called to go out as the salt of the earth and pull people out of themselves to become truly who they were. Yep.
So, and I think that's why this is so awesome to kind of get to talk about, to get to do together, because, you've shared before with me that food and faith go together. Mm-hmm. There's been, I've heard, and if you could share about your pancake talk. He does a whole talk to his youth group about pancakes and how that can be related to faith. So is there, something that you kind of still remember from that talk?
Yeah.
That kind of, and then dives into more of the, why faith and food have kind of connected for you?
Well, I mean, like, the pancake talk, I have to remember exactly what that one, but like, with my youth groups in the past, I've done, like, I make pancakes for them, and they love it, because I'm like, oh, you're feeding me pancakes fresh off the griddle? Awesome, it's wonderful.
If you make pancakes,
I know.
Complain, but tacos are awesome.
But like the idea, like we can make pancakes by themselves, just some flour, some eggs, some milk, and you have batter, but you throw it in a pan and it's kind of bland. It doesn't lift up. There's nothing. There's no leaven in it. There's no baking powder, baking soda to give it some lift.
Yeah.
And it's in like we, in many ways, like the Holy Spirit helps us with that lift in our own life. But we're also getting, we're called to go out there and to live our lives in ways so people aren't bland, flat pancakes, but have some lift in their lives and everything. So I don't even remember if that's my full talk, but that's part of it. I know. But I mean, look, you go to Scripture, especially with Jesus. He's talking about like food is talked multiple times. Like it's an important aspect of our faith, obviously. I mean, Christ is the bread of life.
Well, and before we actually ended up doing this, I asked Tyler if he would join me on this channel, and one of the things that during that same exact week, I began to read and to study and learn more that a lot of the conversions we see that Jesus performs with the apostles is over meals.
Yeah, absolutely.
Peter and his brother was over cooking fish. Matthew was over a meal where people were judging him for eating with a tax collector. Yeah. And so you just see all these different meals, and then you think about what was the last thing Jesus did before he died and went to the garden.
He had this epic meal.
One of the most well-known meals in our history. And so I think it's so powerful that when we are talking to people, when we meet with people, when we are trying to do ministry, that we have a meal to share.
Absolutely.
And one of the things I love about my youth group is we always share a meal. It's a great opportunity to just grow together and just share what's going on in our lives before we do anything else. And I think for us, going out into the world, the people you meet, you're going to have plenty of meals with people.
Absolutely.
And how we share that is so important.
So, and that's, I haven't realized until I got married, my wife started pointing out, like, I have a gift of hospitality. I have a charism of hospitality. And I love to share that because it's bringing people together in community. And I'm an introvert. I am absolutely an introvert. And yet I like bringing people together around a meal just to talk. And people are from different walks of life.
Yes.
Like my wife and I, we have some friends that are really close, and some of them are active Catholics, and at least one of them has nothing to do with that at all. And like we still bring them to our home, have a meal, have fun together, enjoy this company together, and that's really, it brings people together. Food brings people together, and I think it can teach us something, especially if we know a lot what's going on. So I'm gonna throw our veggies in the pan now.
All right.
Really hot.
Nice little sear right away.
Yeah, we're just trying to get these going, put them down with a fajita veggies of sorts. Like you're at Chili's and they bring those sizzling veggies to your table.
Now I want baby back ribs. I can't say the word Chili's and not make me think of it. And that's really funny you bring up Chili's because my friend and I have been talking about, certain people who, they bring up faith too much. And the way he kind of described it at first, it didn't really, I think, hit home with what he was saying. And he said what he really meant is like, let's say you're just sitting there and you're talking about your favorite restaurants, and all of a sudden somebody says, oh yeah, you can't go to Chili's, God doesn't allow that. And there are people like that, and I've met them, and I've experienced that. I think there's also people that think that's just how all religious people are, especially Catholics. But it just made me think like, oh man, Chili's is right across the street from where we're at. If Chili's is out, I might be hosed. I don't get the ribs there, but it's a good place to just go and meet. And I actually have had some amazing conversations with non-Catholics, and we'll sit there for 3 hours. They'll ask me questions about the faith, and there's a lot of people I think that are like that. Even you said your Protestant friends growing up, your classmates, they would ask you questions and you kind of stare at them like, I have no idea what you're talking about. And I think it became very important to me, like, I want to know what people are going to ask me, not because I want to prove them wrong,
right,
but because I want to just be able to have that dialogue. And when I don't know, I try to humble myself. It doesn't always go as well. Sometimes I try really hard. I'm like, oh, I think I know this. And then I realize I don't. And, to be able to have those conversations, to be able to humble ourselves and say, hey, I really don't have an answer for that. Yeah. I'm sorry. And sometimes they'll use that and say, well, see, it's wrong. And for me, it's more of, I need to be better about my knowledge of the faith.
Well, yeah, we got this here. But food is a bridge. It's a bridge that brings people together no matter what. So yeah, the steak's done, but I'm letting it sit here. Like I'm not cutting into it. Like I would love to just cut into that, and just take a bite of it, like right now.
This is again where I mess up.
I know, but it's still cooking. Like it is still actively cooking as it sits there. So there's a couple things. Like it's like you cook it to a certain temperature to make sure it's cooked properly where you want it. But when you take it out of the pan, it's still hot from it, and it's going to keep rising. And so, like with whatever temperature, I disagree with don't disagree. Like the USDA says, you must cook chicken to 165. That's great. That's when it kills bacteria like instantaneously. But if you cook it to 155 and let it rise a bit more, or even if it stays at 155, actually after a couple minutes, it'll kill the bacteria.
Yeah.
And so like you cook it, you let it get to the actual temperature you want. Stop it a little short, 5-10 degrees maybe, depending on how big it is. Let it cook. Also, like if you cut it now, all of those juices are just gonna run out, and it's gonna get dry no matter. Even if you cook it lower, it's still gonna dry. You let it sit, those juices kind of contract back in it and everything. And so we're letting it sit here for a couple more minutes. We'll cut it up. Checking these peppers and onions really quick.
I know you guys can't see it fully, but it looks really good right here.
Well, and then the great thing was I cooked it in the same pan. And so we got some of the seasonings that were on the steak, some of the juices from the steak in there too, so it'll season. But I threw all I threw with these peppers and onions are just some salt. Again, salt.
It's kind of the theme of this talk.
We keep it simple. But other than that, yeah, we'll have the steak, we'll have those. We got some salsa that I didn't make because I didn't have time. I'm sorry.
It's okay. Hatch green chili, medium salsa. we're throwing shout outs in this video.
A little lime, just a little acid, gonna break through some of the fattiness and everything, and we'll make some good tacos. But
awesome.
Yeah, I love food. I love my faith. It's a great way of bringing people together. It's a great way of explaining the faith, and I'd love to someday. And I've thought about it for years, and I haven't figured out how to do it well because it would take a lot of people to help me out doing it. But I'd love to do a retreat for like high schoolers or even like adults too, of teaching people how to cook, because I feel like people don't always know how to cook. As I think we're learning more from the media out there, but teach people how to cook, but also how that relates back to their faith.
And I honestly, I think, one, I would personally love to go to that. But anyway, I think that I can help with making that happen, because I think, one, it's good for all of us, but two, I think it's exactly what we've talked about. This is the way that Christ kind of showed us to talk to people and share the faith. And I think, if we're sitting there and we're teaching people how to cook, and oh my gosh.
Yeah, we got it nice and good.
That's good. I think it's a really important thing. So anyway, and we'll definitely share this more with people and say, if you want to, there's ways that people can help to be able to, make this a possibility. I know I've talked about, I'd love to open a restaurant one day, even though I worked in them and I saw the craziness of restaurant work. I think it would be a really kind of awesome, experience to have a place where, people get out of mass and they can go to brunch together, and from all different places, because I think that's also a great way that when people are all sitting in the same diner and you see people, having different conversations, like that's what we're called to do, is just bring people together.
Absolutely.
And I got to tell you guys, this looks really, really good. And I'm going to try right now, and I want you to hear that tune, which is really, really freaking good.
Simple, basic, not much to it.
I definitely taste the, was that the cumin that we had?
Probably, yeah.
Good thing I'm not cooking.
I think sometimes my wife says I put too much cumin on things, which is probably true because I really like cumin.
There is never, okay, sometimes there's too many seasonings. I learned that cooking ribs the other week.
Oh, man.
I like seasoning. I like the flavor. I like, like I said before, I like spice. So okay.
We will bring these peppers over here.
You can just hear that sizzle in the microphone.
So yeah, we just gotta get some plates and we gotta start putting these together.
All right, so we're gonna take that and then we'll get back. All right, now we have everything ready.
Yeah, we got tortillas, and we got some limes, we got our steak, we got salsa, we got our kind of veggies, a little bit of cojita cheese. So we can talk. You just take whatever you want. I mean, I'm just gonna.
I'm gonna watch kind of.
Okay, so yeah, I'm just gonna throw a little bit of the steak on there.
Okay.
These are small tortillas, so you can only fit so much, but. Some of the veggies, I didn't, I messed up. I didn't bring any avocados to make like a guacamole or something.
All right, so we go steak,
some veggies. I know you gotta get those onions now.
I gotta do the onions, guys. I'm gonna load it up.
These are little mini street tacos here, and then I'm gonna throw a little bit of salsa.
This is gonna be big, guys.
A little bit of cheese.
That smells so good.
And then I like, with cooking, like there's a lot of different parts of cooking that make it a good dish, and one of the things is acid. That's why you got the lime juice. It's going to add a little bit of acid. It's going to cut through some of the fat, Add a little bit more of its own flavor.
Okay, I've always been just wondering. I was like, is this just for kind of flavor, or
It does a whole host of things. I mean, the flavor. I mean, I like lime juice. But yeah, and then we got ourselves a little mini taco, so it drips out there. So
cheers.
Cheers. So tacos, all in the time that we can talk about our faith, talk about our own journeys.
I think that's like, what better way to do it? You're sitting here cooking, talking faith. I think, obviously people are going to have questions.
Absolutely.
And maybe down the road we can do this again and kind of talk about people, maybe we have another cooking time. And I think first of all, this is delicious. But I've seen this grow more and more in the Catholic Church. And I think it's a really great opportunity for people to just want to talk, because I don't think it matters if you're Catholic, if you're Christian, non-denominational Lutheran, if you are atheist, if you are Buddhist, whatever it is, we can all share a meal.
Absolutely.
And I think we need to be more open to that, across the board. I think people who are Catholic need to. I think people who are not, let's just share meals.
Right.
And then you get tacos.
Yeah, conversation. Also, you get tacos.
These onions are really good.
Again, it's just getting the seasoning of the pan with all the other spices that are in there. That steak, it's good. But
this is some of the best tacos I've had.
And you can make your own chilies fajita tacos at home for a lot cheaper.
Yeah. You don't have to get the baby back ribs there.
You don't have to get the baby back ribs.
Well, thank you so much for being
Absolutely.
here,
It's my
for
pleasure.
Sharing this, and just sharing kind of your journey with people. And I think, please ask questions in the comments. We obviously want to figure out a way to be able to kind of make what you talked about a dream. If you are interested in a type of cooking show where you get to maybe talk about some faith and you get to learn how to cook, reach out to us. We'll figure out a way that we can maybe find a way to help and make that work, and kind of maybe build up something where, hey, you got 25 people interested, and this is the kitchen we use, or we find a bigger kitchen and we make that work. So
Awesome. Well,
our hands are both kind of, but there you go. I was going to shake his hand, so thank you so much for being here. And this has been a bridge between. Let's bridge the gap. Okay, people. I think this is big enough as an onion. I just want proof that I actually have eaten an onion.
Want the raw?
I'm not there yet.